So this just popped up on my feed. Another case of conservatives getting mad about something apparently going woke. This time, Michael Knowles is angry that Star Wars has introduced a transgender clone trooper. Keep in mind, it's literally in a new book. A bunch of people angry about this, saying it breaks lore or something. I don't know why that matters that much. Again, I'm not a nerd, and I don't care that much about Star Wars. Apparently, Michael Knowles does, though. Star Wars is based for introducing a trans clone trooper, and I'm pretty sure that title is sarcastic.
Star Wars apparently still exists. You thought that Disney had just taken this popular franchise out in the backyard like Old Yeller and put a bullet in its head, but no, it's still limping on. Star Wars has just transed a clone trooper. What is a clone trooper? I had to ask Professor Jacob about this, and he gave me his apparently expensive model clone trooper helmet. It's different than a stormtrooper, which are in the original movies, but it looks kind of like the stormtrooper. But the difference, I'm going to put this nerd relic down here. The difference is the clone trooper in the lore.
What in the Comic-Con is going on right now, Michael? I like how he doesn't even have any clue about Star Wars or anything even. He's purely just like, well, they introduced a trans person. I have to get mad about that, so...
All descend from one person. It's clones of this guy Jango Fett, whose son Boba Fett is like a bounty hunter or I don't know, whatever. So this is important to transing a character because they're all genetically exactly the same, all of these clone troopers. So how is it the case that in this new book, which is a canon book, it's not just fan fiction, it's a canon book, Star Wars: The Secrets of the Clone Troopers, it is revealed that there's this trans clone trooper.
So this trans character is not even a new character, having already appeared in 2022 in a novel in which she meets Anakin Skywalker, who condones, like, her being trans. Sister isn't the first trans Star Wars character. The universe, which features films, comic books, novels, and video games, has plenty of LGBTQ plus characters, with the first trans and non-binary Jedi introduced in 2021. Okay, so, yeah, basically, long story short, this isn't even a new character. It's already been part of the lore for a couple years, and now it's just been reintroduced, and a bunch of conservatives are up in arms about it. Furthermore, Michael Knowles is like trying to explain all this complicated lore, but he draws the line at people changing their gender. He's like, they're all genetically the same. They were cloned in this galaxy far, far away in which they all live in different planets. And you see, this person's actually an alien. And then they all cloned them. But I'm going to tell you this right now, okay? I draw the line at trans people. That's just unrealistic. Aliens? Cool. Trans people? What the hell is going on?
X describes the trans clone this way, quote, when one of our kind expressed her gender identity differently than her fellow troopers, she feared she'd have to hide who she truly was inside. Fortunately, her brothers in the 7th Sky Corps gave her the name Sister as a constant reminder that she belonged. Okay, so it's silly to inject this modern gender ideology in a galaxy far, far away, but Star Wars is just it's a myth.
It's silly to introduce this modern thing. Him saying, like, why would you add this modern thing? And trans people aren't modern. Trans people have actually been around forever. So Star Wars, it doesn't matter because it actually has no relevance. It's not related to our understanding of time on Earth.
Tell us something not just about a distant past that may or may not have literally existed, but they tell us about our own times. That's what they're for. So Professor Jacob, my nerd producer, observed it's kind of silly that this clone trooper has the trans flag on his helmet, because it's a galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago.
They're literally saying his. They're literally misgendering a fictional fucking character. It's just that he's so desperate. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? We're going to misgender Michael Knowles. Michael Knowles, right here, she is so desperate to just shit on Star Wars that it's embarrassing.
Flag on his helmet, because it's a galaxy far, far away, long, long time ago. And so how do they have the exact same trans colors as we have now? That's the least of it, guys. This is actually...
How do they still have metal to build the hovercrafts just like we have? Curious.
actually kind of based. This is actually pretty right wing, because by transing a clone, Star Wars, wittingly or unwittingly, is admitting that transgenderism is not biological. Star Wars is admitting that transgenderism is a social phenomenon.
We literally have been saying this for so long, you little weirdo. This woman is insane right here, I swear. It is true that, yes, gender is a social phenomenon. So people feeling uncomfortable corresponding with certain gendered expectations is also a result of that social phenomena. Sometimes, however, that social phenomena in regards to gender and presentation and the way you're perceived can go even deeper to a biological level, where you then would become, some people don't use the term transsexual anymore, but in that case, that would be the technically correct term. In that case, then you would start having actual body dysphoria, and you would want to start having a biological change. But the first step of being trans is always a social thing. It's always changing how you present, hoping people perceive you differently. It's always a social thing. So for him to get up here and be like, Star Wars is admitting that it's a social thing, yeah, we already know that.
It's a product of environment and a defect of the will, but it's not biological. If Star Wars had transed any other character in the entire universe, they would have been preserving.
Thank you, Empty. It's also been brought to my attention from chat as well that there is the premise of previous Star Wars shows and franchises and whatnot, the premise of Bad Batch. Okay, so there was a show already made with the Star Wars lore, about the Star Wars lore, called Bad Batch, and it goes into the details about how there are differences in the clones.
Pretty much all of the transgender ideology. By transing a clone, a character that is biologically, of necessity, identical to all the other clone troopers.
Clone troopers have different personalities and whatnot.
Star Wars is asserting that transgenderism is not biological, is not natural, is not innate, that transgenderism is a social fad and a social...
Wait, first of all, no, it's not a social fad. It has existed forever, and it's going to continue to exist so long as we have gendered expectations. So long as the social construct of gender exists, trans people will also exist. Second of all, for you to say it's not natural or something, that actually doesn't matter. Because whether or not something is natural has no bearing whatsoever as to whether or not that thing is good, decent, moral, appropriate, or anything.
Brought about by environmental factors and the individual will. And I totally agree.
Hey Michael, hey Mr. Nostradamus. As an aspiring 14-year-old who wants to be deeply involved in politics in the future, and as someone who is currently writing a book about politics and about how the radical left have destroyed this country and destroyed its Christian and traditional values that it was initially built upon, I was just going to ask,
who is this poor 14-year-old sending Michael Knowles this desperate voicemail? What the hell?
exactly, how do you write a book about politics? How do you form a book about politics? And since I know you have a lot of experience with writing books about politics, I wanted to ask you that. Okay, thank you, Michael. Thank you for all that you do in saving this country from the radical left. Thank you.
Very kind, good question. You're obviously intelligent and precocious and ambitious and serious. So that's all good stuff. That's why you...
I would say probably the opposite of that, but okay.
And precocious and ambitious and serious. So that's all good stuff. That's why you want to write a book. And that is why you should not write a book. Eventually you can write a book. You should not write a book at 14. No 14-year-old should write a book. The reason for that is...
Dude, this poor 14-year-old just reached out to Michael Knowles. He's like, I'm writing a book. I'm so excited. I'm almost done. I've literally dedicated years of my life to this. I can't wait to be done with this. And Michael Knowles just literally crushed this kid's dream. Michael Knowles just, listen, kid, you're too young and stupid to be able to write a book right now, okay? Sit down, go to school. You're obviously smart. don't write a book.
You have not read enough books to write a book. You have not lived enough life to have the experiences that are helpful in writing a book. Your brain has not developed to the point that you are at your prime powers to write a book. And you probably don't have a sufficient command of grammar and syntax and English composition to write a book.
Well, perhaps the most well-known teen author started writing the epic fantasy novel when he was just 15 years old. Alexander Pope was a child genius, 12 years old when he wrote his first major piece entitled Ode on Solitude. So again, like, everybody has to start somewhere. So I don't know why Michael Knowles would just like crap all over this poor kid's goal.
No 14-year-old does. I think even of John Stuart Mill, who I think he spoke Latin by 3 and ancient Greek by 5. You know, this is one of the last really almost perfectly educated men in the West. He had a glaring omission in his education because he never learned anything about religion, which is why his philosophy was bunk. But it's still otherwise a pretty well-educated guy. Even he should not write a book at 14. Nobody should write a book at 14. So what could you do?
What's to say the kid can't write a book?
You should read a lot. You should read books that are challenging, that are books that maybe an 18-year-old or a 22-year-old should read. If you're this precocious, you should read, I don't know, just off the top of my head, The Closing of the American Mind.
So basically, Michael Knowles destroys the dreams of a 14-year-old and shits on Star Wars, even though he has absolutely no understanding of anything regarding Star Wars, just because trans people bad. Yikes.
If you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member today. Members get early access to videos, access to all the stream VODs, and exclusive access to emotes as well. So if you'd like to support the channel, become a member today.